Sometimes when I'm operating that drone, I feel like I'm guilty of something. Like I look around me and it's like, hey, maybe I shouldn't be here. Even though I've taken all the precautions, I made sure the weather is good, I make sure there are no people getting endangered, all of that stuff. And yet... Hi and welcome to my channel. It's been a while since I posted anything here, but as I said in earlier videos, I'm still committed to sharing my experience with flying drones here. There was some time when I really wasn't sure what direction I should take my content. There's so much to know about drones, and I'm first to admit that my knowledge is quite limited. I own 2 drones, and by today's standards, they're old, outdated, or whatever. What hasn't changed, though, is how well they work and how good the footage is that I can record with them. Lots of drone channels have a steady income, and some even get to review the latest drones, thereby creating content of great interest for others. Well, I am very far from that. I can't give you any content of that sort. This channel doesn't have a budget. It's just me and my passion for creating videos and drone footage. It's my form of art. It takes some practice to get good at moving the drone smoothly in the right direction and at the right speed. In recent months, anytime I've flown, the focus has been on perfecting that craft. No matter how hard I've tried, the results have never been truly perfect, but they've improved much over time. One thing that is sometimes holding me back from flying a lot more is that there are rules restricting it in some locations, including right here on any city property in Edmonton, where I live. Well, before someone corrects me on that, the rules don't prohibit it outright, but the city has a bylaw in place that requires drone pilots to apply for a permit when planning to take off from city property. Those permits will not be issued for recreational pilots at all, just for commercial applications. Sure, I create stock footage, which could probably qualify as a form of commercial activity, but realistically, my sales are very sporadic and typically don't pay a lot of money. Obtaining a permit from the city would require me to obtain a drone liability insurance policy for at least $2 million, with the city listed as a beneficiary on that policy. That kind of insurance cost about $500 when I last inquired. Possibly it's more now. When I first started advertising my drone services to the public, I fully intended to get the insurance as soon as it made sense. Like when I'd get a gig that paid at least $1,000 or several smaller ones that would easily cover it. So now I have to confess that that's never happened yet, and essentially I'm just an amateur with aspirations. How the hell am I going to get away with flying my drone in this city without eventually getting in trouble? Well, Edmonton's airspace is fair game. All I have to do is take off and control the drone from someone's private property. Of course, you're supposed to have permission for that too. Quite often I fly my drone at times when no one is around to ask for permission. On occasion, I have asked businesses beforehand if they would allow me to launch from their property before or after business hours. So far, no one has ever said no, but some asked to see my license and asked questions like whether I was going to climb on their roof or something like that. My favorite time for flying is on a Sunday morning, when most people are still asleep. We have very early daylight here in Edmonton during the summer months. To catch the golden hour, I'd have to get up super early. But sometimes that's exactly what I'm doing. I don't always do too much planning ahead of time, because conditions are never the way you'd expect. Usually, I climb on my bicycle, the drone in my backpack, and the binder with written procedures, some orange cones, a landing pad, and even a small first aid kit in my pannier. Often I pick a spot on the fly, and when there's no one to ask for permission, I just do my thing for the 20 minutes or so that one battery will allow me to fly. I always check for the conditions of the airspace on my Drone Pilot Canada app. Link in the description. I always follow an abbreviated checklist, answering some key questions. Is the weather suitable? Will I be able to keep a safe distance from people and ground obstacles? Are there manned aircraft operating nearby? Stuff like that. The Drone Pilot app also has contact information for the nearest aerodromes in case of a flyaway or loss of control. So, in my mind at least, I'm a pretty safe operator, yet often it feels like I'm doing something forbidden. Drone rules are pretty clear when it comes to those from Transport Canada, but here in Edmonton, the bylaw is spoiling much of the fun. As a taxpayer, I should be able to use my own discretion to decide when it is safe to take off from public property. But that's not how it works. Another obstacle to flying in the city are bystanders, even when there are very few around. Nothing is more annoying than some guy coming around asking questions while you're trying to capture something. I've run into people trying to lecture me about how it wasn't allowed to fly within city limits, while I was operating my drone from a place that had already given their permission, within a general airspace and visual line of sight. All I could do was assure him that it was okay and tell him to come back after I ended my flight if he had further questions. This and other disruptions like it are to be expected when operating a drone in public, and they're always annoying and ultimately restricting. Still, I love the challenge of creating something spectacular with my drone. While I hold an advanced Canadian RPAS pilot license and fly a DJI Air 2S most of the time, I would highly recommend starting out with a sub 250 gram drone. There are almost no restrictions by Transport Canada. You do not have to register the drone and don't need a pilot license at all, even though I believe knowing what's safe and what's not is crucial. I mean, wouldn't you think? Yes, the guidelines actually say that you must fly safely, meaning not to put people or other aircraft in danger. You also have to avoid emergency sites and restricted airspace, like forest fires and first responder perimeters. Third, you must follow provincial, territorial, or municipal rules that may apply, including rules about privacy and trespassing. The municipal bylaw still applies. However, beyond that, everything else is pretty much just a suggestion, and you're at your own discretion to decide what you can get away with. You should keep your drone below 122 meters, which is 400 feet, in the air. Approximately, that's the height of a 30-story building. You should keep your drone where you can see it. You should avoid advertised events. Avoid airports. And then use an interactive map or the Drone Pilot Canada app to find safe sites to fly your drone. There's a new rule requiring operators of sub 250 gram drones to obtain a Special Flight Operations Certificate or SFOC when planning to fly at an advertised event. I've never applied for such a certificate, and it's not something I could advise you on. I just stick with avoiding advertised events, small drone or the bigger one. So what are the downsides of operating a sub 250 gram drone? Well, the cameras aren't quite as good as the ones that the slightly bigger drones have, even though they come very close, especially if you have something like the relatively new DJI Mini 4 Pro. They're also not as powerful and often tilt in the wind, so your horizon may shift throughout the video depending your flight pattern. Overall, though, they're a sweet deal. I still fly my DJI Mini 2 wherever and whenever it's a bit sketchy or simply illegal to fly the Air 2S. Mostly, I use it for travel in other countries. It may take you a long time to grow out of the sub 250 gram drone if you ever will. But on this channel, I'd like to share some of the advantages of getting your basic or advanced Canadian drone licenses. So that's what I'll be focusing on for the next several videos. I passed both exams on the first try, so I feel qualified to give you at least some guidance on how you can get there too, if that's what you'd like to do. Hey, join me for that and subscribe to the channel now so you don't miss a beat. Flying a slightly larger drone is rewarding, and you'll soon find out why. See you in the next video, or check out the one on the screen right there, right now.